Works Committee to order. Need a motion to approve the minutes of the prior committee meeting. Motion by Supervisor Sokol, second by Supervisor Wood. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. With that, I'll turn it over to Paul.
Okay, first up would be Justin ConEl for railroad review.
Morning, everybody. Not a lot to talk about this month. I've been working with Jeff and Paul in the DPW on the Riverside Station roof. Sounds like we'll be repairing that roof entirely in September. S&C will be providing 2 employees to assist with that project. We've been working with the Upper Hudson Valley Wine Trail, as I reported last month. That event is progressing. It'll take place on August 20th in North Creek. Everything's looking very well. They're using Black Dog marketing to help promote the event. SNC is running the train. We have also purchased 1,000 custom wine glasses. It'll have the SNC logo on one side, and it will have a special logo that they created specifically for the event on the other side. We'll be offering special ticket prices up to the day of the event, and then on the day of the event it will be a regular cost for the ticket price. And I'm very excited. The Thurman caboose is finally open. It isn't 100% open yet. We're still working with the Department of Health on the water tests. It's going to take a little while, but I want to especially thank Evelyn, Jeff, and Paul for their efforts in working with the Department of Health. We have to be, since there's no town water in Thurman, we have to be approved as a municipal water source, and it's pretty costly behind that. It would have been almost $4,000 just to be able to sell somebody a glass of water from the caboose. Just to put that in perspective, it was $10,000 to move it from Riparius to Thurman. So, you know, that would have been the second most expensive venture, or expensive portion of this whole venture. So, that is progressing. We will get the water test finished. We will be a municipal water source, but the caboose is open. And Dawn's Delights is the company that has moved in there. It's a local bakery right out of Thurman. We are offering her the space at no cost. She keeps 100% of her profits, and she's selling all prepackaged items. So if you're a vendor and you sell all prepackaged items and you're not actually making anything at the venue, that waives a lot of the restrictions from the Department of Health. So that's progressing. NARCOA, the North American something Motor Car Association, anyway, they'll be here in early October, it sounds like. So that's another returning event that we've had every year. And August 1st, I'll be meeting with the Hadley Business Alliance to plan the Fall Foliage Festival, which will be October 14th and 15th. So, any questions on any of that? Okay. In continuing with each month, I want to bring one of the managers from the SNC. This month, I brought Larry Pitblato. He is our superintendent. So I'll invite Larry to come up and just speak a little bit about what he does and some of his past rail experiences. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I found out about a half hour ago that I'm going to be speaking in front of people, which I'm not real big on, but Larry Pitblato, the General Superintendent for the Saratoga North Creek Railway. I've been a railroader since 1978, various railroads in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and New York. Today the operation started in 2011. I was riding my motorcycle through North Creek and met Steve Tirico and was hired that day, so I've pretty much been there since day 5 at North Creek. And I really enjoy my job, helping him day-to-day operations, everything except pretty much marketing, but any type of operations on the railroad. And the other hat I wear for Iowa Pacific is we have 8 other railroads, and I'm the designated supervisor of locomotive engineers for all of our railroads. So I go around and travel a lot and certify and train locomotive engineers in all of our various railroads. So about 150 days on the road last year. I'm about 100 days on the road this year so far. Been home for a while lately, so it's been a lot nicer staying here in the Adirondacks instead of places like Mississippi or West Texas and some various other railroads we have. But totally enjoy working here, and that's pretty much all I have. Is there any questions? Okay.
Thank you. Okay.
Okay, the next item on the agenda, Mr. Chairman, is just an update on the Town of Johnsburg septic easement. On the back of the agenda page is a drawing that you may recall, I think it was back in 2014, the county had authorized issuance of an easement to the town to install a septic system and leach field off of the town property, which is the old Kellogg property and the old Waddell building, that will, but their septic system would need to extend onto the county property where we still have a picnic pavilion that's administered by Paul and his guys. So this is the last drawing we got. We did ask for some modifications or some additional information, so we're back and forth with Cedarwood a little bit on adding some more detail, so we understand the exact impacts on the site adjacent to the picnic pavilion.
I was in a meeting a few weeks ago, and I think the town desires to actually acquire the property. Ron?
Well, there's been talk about that for the last couple of years, and going back and forth about what the property actually is, whether that piece with the pavilion on it was cut off or not. And the last iteration of that I'm aware of is that piece of property actually goes around the backside of the T building and includes the turntable or something that's not cut off from the main piece. Do you have any detail on that, or?
I think it's contiguous with the railroad right away, and
It's not a separate piece, so I don't think,
Okay.
despite arguments to the contrary from some of the players.
Okay.
I don't think we're there.
I think at the time, if I remember right, when this was discussed in committee, it was obviously we're co-owners on some of the parcels down there with the town. The white building where the small office building and the parking lot is co-owned with the town. And certainly we work with the town and with the railroad and the events that are being held on the town property in administering that picnic pavilion. Really, it's essentially a maintenance responsibility for Paul and his crew, and we get a little bit of revenue for pavilion rentals for family picnics and things like that down there. But we're responsible right now for all the maintenance down there, but it's available for anyone to rent. So it hasn't been an issue to my knowledge as far as coordinating with the town or being able to have it available for town events.
Not at all. It's just confusion about what the piece of property is and whether it's a separate piece or not. It's been swirling around. That's the only controversy on the
So we don't have to take any action on this. It's already been, we're back and
No,
forth.
it's just an update.
Okay.
When we have the engineering plan finalized, we'll be forwarding that to the county attorney's office to actually execute the easement. We really didn't want to do that until the design was final.
Okay.
And we knew the exact footprint of the septic system.
Next item, Justin let the cat out of the bag. We're replacing the roof at Revere Station. We're using grant funds from the First Wilderness Heritage Corridor funding. This is a grant, if you're familiar with it, I'm sure you are. It's a 50-50 match where we can use our labor and equipment as a match to their funds for materials. County and railroad personnel will be providing labor. The material estimate is about $6,800, and the labor and equipment estimate is about $12,000. The roof is about 22 years old, so it needs replacing. It's been patched recently, so we're going to just replace the whole thing.
Okay.
Rubber.
No, shingles.
Just want to let Paul know there would have been 2 cats in the bag, except about 10 years ago I adopted a cat that was stray down there.
Okay.
He's a real pain in the butt.
Okay, thank you.
That's it for Parks and Rec?
All right, we'll move into DPW.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Chairman. On the DPW agenda, the first item is, on page 1. This is a, request for a contract with MC Environmental. We use them periodically in maintenance of our underground storage tank and above ground storage tank systems for the 8 county fueling sites.
Okay, Supervisor Conover, seconded by Supervisor Frazier. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
On page 2 is a request to rescind Resolution 508 of 2013. This is for the Westbrook Road sidewalk project. This is really due to a change at DOT and how they want to account for funding in this grant agreement. So essentially they pulled back their past grant agreement that they had drafted and which we had used. And I'm gonna follow right up with some new grant agreements for the same project, but we need to rescind this one. It's now obsolete.
This is related to 3?
Yes.
Then I'll move 2 and 3.
Second that.
Okay, Supervisor Conover moved it, seconded by Supervisor Wood. Any discussion?
Oh, I've got a question. Is 8 also?
It is.
Okay. I don't know if you wanna amend.
I'll amend to include 8.
I'd amend as well.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
And page 10 is a decrease to capital project for the Warren County Bike Path or Bikeway Improvement Project, H344. This is to adjust the grants available and the final costing.
For the
because
project.
The project work is done.
Okay, Supervisor Sokol, we have a second. Supervisor Frazier, is there any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
And on page 11 is a similar project for H345. The work is done and we're simply decreasing the overall project amount to match the actual expense.
Okay, Supervisor Wood, we have a second. Supervisor Van Ansel. Okay, any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
On page 12 is a request to increase capital project. This is our county bridge project, H331, and this is to simply move money out of our D9950 transfers to capital projects code, where we had budgeted funds for this project. So this increase will move money out of that transfers code into the project code so we can initiate work. And that was part of the budget process.
Okay, Supervisor Conover, second by Supervisor Sokol. All in favor? Go ahead, Supervisor Kramer.
Yeah, that's not intent as to whether this is a single project or is this a bunch of bridge projects?
This is multiple.
It's multiple bridge projects. The main amount of money in this, that's being transferred is for the Peyton Aram Road Bridge project that we're designing right now. We also have 2 or 3 bridge painting projects in there as well.
So this is work that the county forces do. So all of this money essentially goes into material and some contract work for membrane applications and other things.
Okay, are we ready for the question? Call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
On page 13 is a request, a transfer request. This is adjusting for salaries to be applied to the Valley Woods Road project.
Supervisor Van Ansel, do we have a second? Supervisor Wood? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Just a question on that. The source of the funding on that, am I reading this correctly, contingent fund?
No.
No.
No, that is, that's a generic portion that is always on this form.
Okay.
If you look, state the reason for the transfer, we're actually transferring from maintenance
Okay.
salaries
I see that
into
now.
road project salaries. So we're doing that for all of our, road projects. That we go into the year with all of the salaries carried between maintenance and snow and ice salaries. And then as we conduct a road project, we apply the these
Okay.
salaries over to the road project.
Very good, thank you.
And page 14 is a request to decrease salary for the assistant engineer number 1 position. We have Sean Raymond, who I think you've met before. He's come and briefed some of the court project stuff and various other projects, but he has resigned and he's taking a job with DOT Region 1 in their traffic division. So I'm sure we'll see Sean again, but we want to move to backfill that position. I'm resetting the salary back to our original starting salary that we've been using in recent years.
Supervisor Sokol, second by Supervisor Conover. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
On page 15 is intent to backfill for that same position at the 34,000 salary.
Supervisor Conover, do we have a second? Supervisor Wood? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
On page 16 is a request for approval to enroll in job-related courses. This has been one that you've seen in the past, recent years. My confidential assistant has been taking both online and night courses towards her accounting degree. She is my backup for Betsy Hinkle, my fiscal manager, so she's continuing with that effort.
Moved by Supervisor Sokol, second by Supervisor Frazier. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
On page 18 is a request to attend a meeting and convention. This is for Kevin Hajos and I, for the summer conference. It's actually in Saratoga, so we're just seeking authorization for the tuition, for the PDHs, the program, and some of the meals during the day while we're there.
Moved by Supervisor Wood. Do we have a second? Supervisor Conover. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
And page 21 is a request to establish road projects for new projects related to the Pave New York program. Each of the town supervisors and/or their highway superintendents would have received similar letters to the one that's shown on page 22 and 23. This is the additional monies that the state had budgeted, and they finally got these letters out and provided guidance to us as far as what types of projects we could apply them to. We're in good shape with our current road projects. They'll be completed here in August, so we'll be ready to start work on these new projects. On page 24 is our recommended list of what projects to initiate in September and October and complete this year. We don't have the project numbers yet, but we'll follow up for finance, pending the committee's approval. We'll establish road project numbers, and then we'll be able to initiate work right after the August board meeting.
Okay, Supervisor Conover, you...
I'll move that, and then I have a question. I'll move
Okay,
it
let me get a second. Supervisor Wood?
That Riverbank Road project, could you just give me a brief description of that project?
It's a reconstruct. Most likely we're gonna do a mill and fill up in that area. As you know, by traveling through that, we're getting a lot of raveling of the pavement up there. There's actually a lot of potholing in areas up there too. That may be more or less from winter damage, and a lot of wheel path rutting. So I wanna say it's from Valley Woods back towards the washout that we had in 2011.
Right.
That's the area that we're gonna concentrate on in there.
So it'll be spot reconstructions and then mill and fill.
And then a mill and
the
fill.
full length.
Yep.
Okay. Mr. Montez?
I just wanted to say, Round Pond Road, project came out terrific. Fortunately for us, I mean, I know you have the timing, but, Little had a golf tournament last Monday, and it was done by then, so.
Well, that was on the
That's
radar,
exactly
definitely.
the way we did it.
Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Okay, before I get into next year's road projects, I have one more last minute item. Talked with my highway manager, actually on my drive down. We have a contract with Sears for tree removal. That contract was executed by authority that the board gave me some years ago to enter into contracts up to $20,000, provided that I follow the county purchasing policies. So I have this resolution 375 of 2010 that I use oftentimes for contracts, for recurring annual contracts, standby contracts, up to a limit of $20,000. We're actually right at the cusp of our $20,000 limit already, and in part, I think, because of some of the particular areas we've been working in where we had some more difficult trees, but also we have started extending this contract to the towns and essentially administering the tree cutting through our contract and then back charging the towns for town-related work. Of course, that inflates the overall expense side under our contract. So what I'd like to request of the committee is an authorization to increase that contract by $10,000 for the remainder of this year. And I think we've gotten we did written quotes for the contract. Purchasing policy allows up to $34,999 for written quotes, and so I'd like just another $10,000, but it exceeds the existing authority I have under Resolution 375 of 2010. But we have more trees to get done this year, and certainly don't want to be left without that standby contract for difficult trees. So I guess what I'm asking for is, and I'll do a miscellaneous resolution, authorizing increase the contract limit of $10,000 for the Richard Sears contract. And then, frankly, I think I've got to review that 375 and see how many other contracts I'm hitting against that limit. Maybe that needs to be modified in the future.
Okay, would somebody like to move that? Supervisor Conover?
I'll bring it to the
Second
floor
by-
for discussion and answer a question.
Okay. Supervisor Sokol, second.
Is 10 going to be enough? My highway manager asked for 5, so that's why I'm going with 10, to be safe. Thanks.
Ready? My only question is that this was competitively bid, and what we're talking about here is how much we're prepared to spend, not because they would have bid that on some type of a unit price, unit basis.
Yes. It wasn't a bid through the board, it was written quotes.
Right.
So purchasing policy allows smaller contracts under $35,000 to be written quotes. So we did get multiple written quotes for that. The board back in 2010 had authorized that or delegated that authority for the smaller contracts, which actually has been very helpful, and it has allowed us to enter into contracts more quickly for relatively small amounts, and also it has decreased a lot of the resolutions and other clutter and work through the county attorney's office and through purchasing and through the clerk of the board. So it's been a good process that we've had under that 375, but we still get hard written quotes. We still have a written contract with all of the same terms that we would have through a formal county bid.
Thank you.
Jeff, how often do you put this out?
We put it out at least once every 3 years. The contract allows for 1-year extensions, 2 additional 1-year extensions. So usually if the contractor is performing well and we've got a good communication with them and they're responsive to our needs and they are willing to hold their prices, we'll usually extend an additional year.
And did I hear you say that towns can piggyback on this?
Yes, as I've gotten some requests from towns to be able to use that contract. Highway law allows me to conduct work on town roads and then back charge the town. So that's how I've been doing
There
it.
was some communication differences because we asked and we were told we couldn't piggyback on the contract by your highway manager.
He's been the one that's administered it for other towns, so I don't know why he would say that.
I don't know, this is June when this happened, but that's fine. We got our own quote.
Here-
It's cheaper than the county quote.
Okay. The towns cannot simply take that contract and use it and build and contract directly with the contractors. The way it's being done through highway law is
we're essentially doing the work with our contractor, and then we're back charging the town. So it is not a piggyback. It is not a piggyback arrangement. It is a county forces doing work on a town road and then back charging the town, same as our paving crew.
Okay, so that's not counting towards your 35,000.
It does, because the expense comes into my budget, and then we get a revenue to offset it.
All right, starting to understand that.
Okay, any further discussion? Call the question? I think we had a first and a second, right? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Okay, on page 21 is a draft list nope, not 21. On page 25 is a draft list of road projects for next year. Do we have copies? We have a few copies of our road condition reports, so I'll certainly give these out. We're literally just finalized this morning. But my intent is, I have given in the past the entire board hard copies, but I'll certainly provide hard copies to anyone who would request them. But our thought is that we would post it to the county webpage, and based on our condition ratings by town for the percentage of county roads that are in poor condition, we've come up with this project list tentatively going into the budget process. So this is the committee's first look at this. This doesn't require any action at this point. This is simply for the committee to absorb, and certainly I'll take input from any of the town supervisors on, or any of the supervisors on roads they think should be added or deleted off of this list. Going into the budget process, we'll be talking about our anticipated chips for next year, which we're anticipating the same 1.6 and change, 1.6 million, which represents that first group, that first block of roads on the top. Anything below that first block of roads would be county funds, or if they stick with the Pave New York funds, if that's a recurring thing. I haven't heard for sure whether that is going to recur
It's supposed to be.
into next year's budget, but so this is simply for information of the committee, and we'll certainly be seeking input. And once we get into the budget process, this road project list will become part of the budget request. And then at the beginning of the year, we'll establish road projects and get this work underway in the spring.
Supervisor Bramer?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea to put it on the list,
Go ahead, Ryan.
Jeff, I was on the town board in Queensbury. We could start this list by looking at roads that haven't been paved in 10 years or more. I assume that, however they got to that point, that the useful life of a paved road might be 10 years?
It depends on the road, but generally the useful life of an overlay on a fair condition road is about 10 years. 7 to 10. So it varies, but what we do is something a little bit more deliberate. Kevin and his staff do pavement gradations on every mile of county road. So we actually go out and not only look at roads that are due for paving based on some project that was conducted years ago, but we look at the condition this year, and that's what we base the recommendations on.
It always got to be somewhat of a controversial issue, because we did actually get in the bus, all of us town board members, and ride the roads. Always made changes. Whether they were good or not, we always
Right.
made.
If we had gotten to a point where the roads were, all in fair condition, and we were simply doing overlays every 10 years, that's a simple system to have, and I think, if the town has been keeping up with the roads, that probably works well for the town to be able to prioritize what roads are due.
Thank you.
So next month, we should come back with, any discussion.
Yeah, I think, I anticipate that the first budget meeting with the, budget officer will be probably in mid to late August. And, okay, so, this'll be, I guess, our draft list, and then it won't get finalized into the budget until, later in September and October.
Okay.
So we'll be able to make adjustments. Okay, under pending items, we still have, we're still waiting for DEC to come through on that grant for the household hazardous waste days. Kevin's got some of the final numbers he can run through on our total, quantities and expenses for the 2 days.
I think as most of you are aware, we held 2 household hazardous waste days, one in Warrensburg and the other one in Queensbury. The one in Warrensburg, and I will run through the numbers, I don't want to bore you with them, but 50 gallons of antifreeze we collected in Warrensburg. Pesticides, which are solids, any type of pesticides you'd use around your house, fertilizers, things like that, they collected 600 pounds of that, 15 pounds of fluorescent bulbs. Hazardous paints, 1,000 gallons of hazardous paints, and most of that was oil-based paints or stains or like a polyurethane. Pesticides and liquids, 300 gallons, and then other household hazardous liquids, cleaners, things like that, 1,500 gallons. That was all in Warrensburg. The cost of the Warrensburg household hazardous waste was $9,361. In Queensbury, I was there in Queensbury, and I thought we were going to get, we had a fair amount of individuals, I think much more than Warrensburg, but it didn't seem to be that we collected much more. Antifreeze is 200 gallons, pesticides again was 1,200 pounds, fluorescent bulbs was significant, they had 85 pounds of fluorescent bulbs. It doesn't sound like a lot, but you know how light fluorescent bulbs are. The hazardous paints, they had 1,100 gallons there, other household hazardous liquids, 850 gallons. So I think both, and the cost in Queensbury is $11,323. I think both of them were very successful. I think we expected that we'd collect a lot more than what we did. But as Jeff and I talked, this should be probably a yearly thing that we do. And I think we'll start taking a lot of those things that people may dump in the garbage or on the side of the road off and get them collected and take care of properly.
So our intent, going into the budget process, if the committee wants, we'll budget, for another set of household hazardous waste days in the spring. I think we're safe, getting our budget down to 30,000.
Yeah.
I wouldn't anticipate that next year's would be bigger, so we can budget a total expense of 30 and anticipate a grant of 15 in the budget process and, account for that, and then we'll initiate the work, over the winter and into the spring. And the way it seems the DEC likes to do these grants is you incur the expense and then you submit.
Correct.
Right, Kevin?
Yep.
So we will anticipate the availability of the grant. We'll certainly communicate with the committee and anything that DEC's given us as far as how much funds are available, and then initiate the work and then submit for the grant after the expense is incurred. Questions on those? Okay, have a number of photos to pass around. The first set of photos are county paving projects. So you can see a road with no stripes on it that's recently paved by the county paving crew. Again, the projects have been going well. We're ahead of schedule now, so we'll be wrapping up the county projects here in mid to late August. The next photos I'm sending around are the Market Street Bridge. That's at the Mill Pond in Brant Lake. And we're essentially to a point now where we're waiting on precast concrete bridge
deck
decks.
panels. We have some minor welding to do, and then it's the deck panels.
So once the deck panels arrive, it should come together and be opened up pretty quickly. The next one is the Back to Sodom Road Bridge. This was, again, all county forces, a complete bridge replacement. Everything down to the spread footers and abutments is all new, constructed by county forces. And most of that work was done last fall, and then we applied a sealing membrane, had a contractor come in and do a spray applied membrane, and we paved over for wearing. surface.
Jeff,
Yes.
was that bridge itself prefab?
Yes. Yes, so the steel sections all came prefabricated, and then we just put it together. The next one is a federal aid project. This is Blair Road over Millbrook, and you'll see some pre-construction and some post-construction photos of that project. That was a bridge rehab, is that a rehab?
It was a replacement.
It was a full replacement,
Full
so.
replacement.
And that was through the federal aid process administered by, Kevin and his staff. And then, here's some Round Pond Road, before and after, pictures to that project. That again was a federal aid project. On the back of the agenda is simply the DPW overtime update, and I didn't get the fuel report in time for press, so I'll update the committee next month on that.
Okay.
That's all I have for detail.
Is there anything from the committee? Okay, motion to adjourn. Supervisor Conover, second by Supervisor Witt. All in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned.